For this installment of typesetting with Adobe Illustrator, I'm going to talk about text wrap. It's really fun to play with text wrap, and I'll show you how to wrap text around an object, a vector graphic, if you will, that is created on the artboard. We'll talk about the text wrap options, and also I'll show you how to wrap text around a pull quote, which is very often used in typesetting. Now, one point of note, Adobe Illustrator is probably least often used for larger documents. Illustrator can be used a lot for postcards, posters, but for the larger documents in which master pages are involved, people typically use InDesign. And some of the tools that you learn here are also available in InDesign. But it is still nice to know that these options are available in Illustrator. So here I have a logo that is just a vector graphic here on the artboard. I have some text, and what I'd like to do is wrap text around this character. I can certainly do that. Now, one thing I need to be sure of is that this character is in front of this text box. So I move this character over, and then I want to make sure by going Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Otherwise, I'll have hours of frustration. I just want to double check that this is in front. And once I have the object placed maybe kind of where I want it to show up or be wrapped around, I select the object and the text box, and under Object, Text Wrap, Make. It gives me a little dialog box saying the text will wrap around all objects, including type objects. Okay. Now, it does put a little default padding around the object. We can take a look at that. Now, that looks pretty good, but if I decide that for some reason I want a little more padding around this item, I can select it, and I can go Object, Text Wrap Options. And the Options dialog box allows me to add padding. And if I click on Preview, I can see the added padding around the object, or lessen the padding, like so, as needed. So it does give you some of those options. What happens when we invert the wrap? Well, then it puts the wrapping inside of the object, and that's not the effect that we want. So I'm going to uncheck Invert Wrap, and then after I have created the settings that look pretty good to me, depending on how I want the text to flow around the object, I click OK. So we have now wrapped the text around an object, which looks pretty cool. I can always release these items too by Shift-select both the text and the object, Object, Text Wrap, and Release. Now, this is a typical use of a pull quote. A lot of times there's a very captivating statement from an expert in the field, and the text on the left is related to the quote. And this quote, in fact, was pulled from the text on the left. Typically, it's drawing attention to a very pithy statement. So we will pull our pithy statement into the text box area. Sometimes these pull quotes span 2 columns, which is a very common use of pull quotes. And again, I want to make sure that this object is in front. So Object, Arrange, Bring to Front, just to make sure. Now I will Shift-select to grab both items, and Object, Text Wrap, Make. And again, it gives me the little warning that it's going to go around all the objects, including the type objects, which is cool. Click OK. And now we can see how this pull quote is treated within this column of text. And that includes your very quick and dirty introduction to text wrapping using Adobe Illustrator.